Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. We've got Harry Garside here, who is a Commonwealth Games gold medalist, 6 times Australian amateur champion. I've been following you for ages on Instagram, actually, man. I'm really interested in all the stuff you're doing. I mean, you're doing your ballet, you're training 2-3 times a day. You're a little bit stiff in Russia because you had some really nasty cuts that restricted you from getting through that last fight. How was that experience?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on.
No worries,
great opportunity to talk about boxing, which I love. But
we'll do plenty of that.
It's been an interesting year. I feel like I'm performing really, really well at the moment. As you said, I come back from Russia and at the World Championships, and I received a cut in the middle of my head in the first fight. So in the second fight, I had to really play it safe. And obviously the 2020 Olympics are coming up and qualification and stuff like that. So you don't want to get too many cuts. And all in all, I fought the Russian in my second fight, and I thought I was boxing really, really well. It was a really, really close fight. I thought I may have edged it, but watching it back, it was tit for tat. We were both very, very similar. What's his name? Ilya Popov. He's the Youth Olympic gold medalist. He's very, very, very good. Had a lot of fights and just a technician. But all in all, as I said, I thought I performed well, and there's a lot of positives taking out of it coming into next year.
What did you think when you got matched up against Popov? Because obviously it's on his home ground in Russia. You would have maybe gotten a interesting reception when you came out to fight their golden boy as well in that division. So what was that like? Yeah,
it was massive. I actually fought him earlier that year as well, so I knew what he was like, and he actually he dropped me. It was the first one ever to drop me. It was a beautifully placed left hand. We threw the exact same punch earlier in the year, I just sort of woke up. I didn't hit the ground, but I woke up almost hitting the ground. I jumped back up like in a squat position.
Really?
But I remember thinking to myself in that moment, how I react now determines the rest of my boxing career. If I go up into a shell and lose the second and third round, as I said, it happened in the first, should I give up boxing and play tunnel ball? Because I realistically haven't got what it takes to be a champion, to be an Olympic gold medalist, or to be a world champion in the pros. And I was very, very happy with myself. I come back, and on some judges' scorecards, I won the second, and on all judges' scorecards, I won the third. So I lost the fight, just sort of lost the first 2 rounds. But I was happy with how I come back from my first ever drop.
Absolutely, and there's something to be learnt from all of those things. But when you went to Russia, I'm good friends with Jason Malia, who's another guy who you went over there with, and I was annoying him the whole time he was over there. What's it like? What was it like going over to Russia and being with your little Australian crew? It must have felt like you were on away soil in a way, and like a little team here to fuck shit up.
Yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. We're actually very, very lucky that it was just a boys' trip. A lot of the trips we do, there's girls on the team as well. But I think the boy dynamics was just a great opportunity for us to just grow as a team. It was the first time spending a bit of time away with some of the boys, and they're all absolute legends. So it was good to sort of just be away with them and just experience that all together, because I think it was some of the boys, like Jack Danahay was the first sort of his major tournament, and a few of the younger boys as well. So it was just a great opportunity to get over there. And as you said, mate, we're on the opposite side of the world. So, we don't know, none of them speak English. Everyone's looking at us like, who are these Aussies and stuff like that. So I think we just sort of molded together in that moment and sort of took it on like head on.
And how do you see, because you've got yourself, Jason, and then Justice Huni as well, who is a fucking beast, man. Like, he is seriously like a tough guy, and he moves so well.
I truly believe, I've said this to my trainer the other day, as long as he stays injury free, stays away from, like, say, bad management or something like that, I truly believe he will be the biggest sporting athlete Australia's ever seen. I think he'll be heavyweight champion of the world as long as he stays injury free, and he's an exceptional athlete, and yet the best thing about him, before I met him, you see some of these guys who have all these talents and stuff like that, and because they've got the talent, they don't work hard. But what I love about Justice, he puts in the work. He works just as hard as anyone, so he deserves to be where he is.
Yeah, he's killing it. And I remember when I was watching him, because I was originally just going to watch you and Jason because you were the only ones I knew, and then I didn't actually know who Justice was. And then I started watching him, and I was like, he won his first fight, won his second. I was like, this dude is like, 90 whatever kilos, or
91 plus,
and he moves like Michael Jackson. Like he's just amazing. And I was so excited for him to fight that big Kazakhstani dude who was just starching people that whole competition. And I felt like they were the two strongest of that division for sure. And that was going to be such an exciting fight, but he got sick.
Yeah, of course. And I was actually rooming with him. So, as you mentioned, he got sick and, just unforeseen circumstances. And him being him and him being any fighter, it was hard to sort of get him out of the ring. We had to sort of tell him. And I said to him, mate, I was having chats with him, and obviously he wanted to fight. Every fighter wants to fight. But I said, mate, at that heavyweight division, super heavyweight division, you go in there 80%, let alone he was at about 30%. You go in there 80%, that's when serious damage can happen. That's where you could probably end your career, get a serious knockout or something like that. And I said to him, mate, get them where it counts.
Especially with a killer like that, dude.
100%. I truly think he's superior than them. Obviously, they're extremely good boxers, the Kazakh and the Uzbek. They were the two sort of like real good ones in his divisions. And I said, mate, next year's massive. Get him where it counts at the Olympics. Get him when everyone's looking. And I truly think he will.
So you guys went over there as the Aussie team, and Australians don't necessarily have the best reputation for amateurs because, we don't get as well looked after as other countries do. What was it like going over there and maybe being kind of underdogs in a way?
Yeah, I think we're almost sort of used to it, to be honest. It's a weird thing. I think a lot of judges and stuff like that, they obviously try their best not to be biased or something like that, but I think they see Australia on our backs and they don't expect us to be any good. That's no disrespect to any of our past fighters because we've had extremely good fighters, but you see people who are winning medals at the Olympics and stuff like that. It's very rarely Australians. So I think the judges and stuff like that, as you mentioned, we're just sort of expected to be, not this country who's expected to be winning. But I think people like the girls are boxing really, really well at the moment. Justice, as you mentioned, Jace, there's a few really, really exciting fighters who are making a difference, and we're starting to put Australia on the map, which is good.
Yeah, 100%. And winning good fights, and hopefully we have a real presence at the Olympics as well, and that is looking pretty likely. Justice is qualified. You're looking to qualify in the next few weeks, and so is Jason.
Yeah, absolutely, and I truly think we'll get a couple of medals at the Olympics, and I really, really hope it's gold. Obviously, Australia's only won 2 silver and 3 bronze at the Olympics, and our last one was '88, Spike Shaney. So, I think it's exciting. Sort of 12 months coming up.
I can't wait, man. And you obviously won gold at the Commonwealth Games. I can see the tattoo on your wrist there. Tell us about what it was like, the journey towards winning gold and then obviously winning the medal as well.
Yeah, it was. I was only 20 years old at the time, so I remember it was a sort of interesting story. Like walking out, warming up for the final. So I had 5 fights in the Commonwealth Games, and the final. I remember I dreamt about that moment for a very, very long time. And I really thought I was going to be like very, very nervous and stuff like that. And obviously the nerves were there, don't get me wrong. But I remember there was a moment when I was warming up. I walked into the toilets and I was looking at myself in the mirror thinking, you're fighting for the biggest thing you've ever fought for. Like why? I thought I was going to be a lot more nervous.
Really?
Yeah, it was very interesting. And then I walked out there and it was all just meant to be. And then I got back to my room that night. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't have any beers. I was sober. And I sat down on the balcony. I just really sort of embraced it, just sort of let it all sink in. And after debriefing it in my head, I think it's because I was so prepared. The preparation was great. I had a 10-week prep and we all trained very, very hard as a team. We're over in the Philippines, and then we got together at the AIS and did a multi-nations camp. And I really expected myself to be nervous, but I think because my preparation was so good.
Wow.
The nerves were really, really chilled, which is super good. And I think taking that forward, as I said, I was only 20. That's going to be something that I'm going to focus. Preparation is the key for me now. So,
well, that's awesome, man. They say that greatness is where preparation and opportunity collide. And it kind of makes sense that if you put in all of this hard work, you shouldn't really be nervous because you should know that you've got the tools now to go and achieve your goals.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was a very strange feeling. Almost threw me off. But I knew that I did everything I possibly could. I remember I set out for camp. I left home on the 1st of January, New Year's Day, 2018, and I drove up to Canberra. And I moved up to Canberra for a few months. And as I said, we were in the Philippines and stuff like that. But I made sure I left no stone left.
Where'd you go in the Philippines?
Baguio. So it's high altitude training up in the mountains, and we have a very, very good relationship with the Filipino national boxing team. So they take us in. They're beautiful people. I've been over there like 7 times, I think.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. So now you've learnt so much from the nationals and you've learnt so much from the Com Games. Your preparation now just from watching your stories every day and watching all of the extras that you're doing and your attitude, it looks as though you've got your eyes on the prize and everything is kind of leading to these Olympic Games in a way. One of the things that I'm really interested in is the fact that you've taken up ballet. A lot of people who know, Lomachenko will know that is the story that his father took him out of
boxing? For a few years, yeah. I think there was a few reasons behind that. So I've watched a few. Obviously, there's a language barrier, so I can't fully understand like their explanation sometimes. But I think his dad's idea behind it was, a lot of athletes, they succeed when they're younger, prima donnas, and then they lose the interest. So his dad wanted to take him out of boxing for a few years in his teenage years, and then he took up traditional Ukrainian dancing, ballet dancing. He did wrestling, so he still was active, but he took away boxing for a little bit, and that's half the reason why he is where he is now, I believe. So, that's my inspiration for starting ballet. And it's been great. I've started about 7 weeks ago now, and I started this ballet school, and it's unreal.
I've been so keen to talk to you about this. So the way that I interpreted Lomachenko's doing ballet was that it was for his footwork because it helps you be more balanced and stuff. Is that the idea behind it?
Yeah. As I said, I've only been 6 weeks, so I haven't seen heaps of benefits yet. But I can feel the strength through the legs. It's an extremely hard sport, mate. It's I actually pull up like somewhat sore the next day. You feel tension in all of your legs. There's stability. There's coordination. There's so many things that they're doing. As I mentioned, just like you're constantly on your toes, like we are in boxing.
Right.
Transferring of the weight, which we do in boxing. The coordination, thinking about the steps and the technique. There's so many things that are similar, but so different at the same time. So I truly do think this would be something that I do for a very, very long time.
Okay.
And I think there will be a lot of benefits coming from it.
So you're actually already starting to feel the benefits in terms of balance, and you're constantly like on your toes. You're elevated when you're doing ballet, right?
Yeah. So not all the time, but there is a lot of movements that you are on the balls of your feet and stuff like that. And as I mentioned, the transfer of the weight, which is very, very similar to boxing. When we slip a punch, we transfer the weight onto our front foot or vice versa. So it's been a great thing. And I think as well, I started boxing when I was 9. So I've done boxing and boxing only for 13 years. And I think it's just a great thing to do something else and really humble yourself. You know what I mean? Sometimes you feel like you're going through doing the same thing with boxing. It's very routine based, doing similar stuff. So it's just great to sort of mix it up and do something different, sort of reignite that fire in your belly.
Right, because if you're doing the same thing all the time, I guess it would. I mean, if you love the sport, obviously, but it would get somewhat, repetitive. And then Have you spent? You said you spent time in the Philippines. Have you spent much time overseas in many other places training?
Yeah. So luckily enough, through Boxing Australia and the great help from the AIS, we do a lot of travel. Obviously, boxing is one of those sports. It's not like a swimming pool where you can swim anywhere in the world. In boxing, we have to travel overseas or travel interstate to get better. Obviously, the depth in Australia is small compared to the rest of the world. We have some great boxers, but I think they just don't have the exposure to fight or spar against the best. So I think Boxing Australia realised that, and we travel a lot. Been to the USA, been to about 15, 16 countries. So it's I'm very lucky with the opportunities I've got. It's just all just sort of leading into the future, I guess.
Another thing you've been doing recently, which is cool, is you've been getting yourself out of your comfort zone, trying to not feel comfortable. I saw you did some public speaking. My worst fear is public speaking. I mean, I do it sometimes, but I always shit myself before I public speak when I'm at uni or anything like that. What was the sort of idea behind that?
Yeah, so it was a great initiative that the AIS, Australian Institute of Sport, started. It's called the Gold Medal Ready program, and it's in lead up to the 2020 Olympics. So as you're seeing at 2016 Olympics, the Rio Olympics, some of the main gold medal prospects, like some of the swimmers and stuff like that, they crumbled a little bit just because the conditions, like the places where they stay, wasn't the best that they're used to, and it threw a lot of people off. So I think that they saw that and they said, how are we gonna improve? And they started this thing called Gold Medal Ready, and it's an initiative with the Commando Regiment, the Army, and we the first camp I did was up at Holsworthy Barracks, and it was just sort of taking us through tasks where we felt uncomfortable, and it's just all about getting those voices inside your head about what you do when you're uncomfortable. And I think as athletes, we get put into so many weird and strange situations. And as you mentioned, the thing I took out of it was probably get comfortable being uncomfortable. So I set out to do one thing a month that makes me uncomfortable. I've done things like no technology, started ballet, had some really tough conversations, public reading. It wasn't actually public speaking. I don't mind public speaking. It was public reading. Do you remember being like a kid and the teacher asked you to read? I struggle to read. So I just take the piss because I was really nervous and I was really scared.
What did you choose to read?
So I'm reading this book at the moment. It's really, really good. And it's just all about growth mindset and stuff like that. And I hijacked this meeting. I didn't actually know it was the army, but I hijacked this meeting. There was about 60 blokes in the room and then about 20 of their officials or whatever you want to call them.
Where was this at the AIS?
Yeah, so I just hijacked the meeting and opened a random page in the book and I started reading it and I screwed up a few times and it was one of the hardest ones I've done. It was one of the hardest ones I've done, just more so because there was so many eyes on me. And as I said, I don't mind talking, but when it comes to reading, that's when it's like really, really tough.
So it's just about basically constantly getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. So I've got a few things on the list, like stand-up comedy things. That'll be so tough.
That's something I've always wanted to do.
Yeah, I just think I struggle. My brain doesn't function quick enough, and I think I would forget a lot of things. And it's just good content as well. Like I don't think I'm a funny dude. Like, I don't know. Like some people are just really good at articulating things, and I don't know. I think I'd struggle so hard, but it would make me super uncomfortable. So
be careful you don't quit boxing and become a stand-up comedian.
Big Joe Rogan.
Yeah, exactly, mate. We could run our own podcast. So back to the topic of going overseas. You mentioned you've been to the US, you've been to the UK as well. What's it like going over there and sort of going into new gyms, and you must have people sizing you up as who's this little Aussie kid,
Yeah, it's as we were talking about before the podcast, England's such an interesting place. So is America actually. They've got massive egos in America. But England's probably where I noticed it the most. You walk into the gym and they're tough. They're very, very tough. Like I think to get to where they are, they have to be very, very tough. You have to have a lot of confidence. You have to be eyeing everyone off. And I remember walking into the gym and the big super heavyweight, they're eyeing you off. I'm thinking, mate, there's about 40, 50 kilos difference. Like, let's just relax, big fella.
Relax, mate.
But it's just the way they are, you know what I mean? Coming from their gyms, obviously boxing culture is massive in England. So you have to be tough to succeed over there. And it was a great sort of experience. Sort of you walk in and you have to sort of show you like confidence and put your shoulders back and not be intimidated, because that's where they get that mental gain from. So I lived
over in Hackney in East London for 3 years, and yeah, you're spot on. I was the only white boy in the gym, and I never even did that much sparring or anything because I just wasn't at the level. But just to be around those guys was really cool. Lawrence Okoli at my gym. He's currently, I think, on track to maybe get a world title shot soon. There's another guy. When I first got to the gym, his name is Daniel Aziz, and he's a UK fighter. I think he's 7 or 8-0 at the moment. And everyone was like, that's the guy. Like, he's gun. Such a nice dude, though. Sparred him a few times, and like he'd take it easy on me. And then my coach goes to me, show him where his holes are. I was like, really, coach? Jesus, man. And then Daniel starts giving me all these body shots and shit. but he's doing really well. So he's another exciting one. But as I said, I was the only white boy in the gym. And
it would have been pretty full on. I think one of the best things about boxing is, it's people like that. A lot of boxers come from very humble beginnings. I had no troubles growing up, mate. I come from two great parents and no problems at all. But you see a lot of successful athletes, they come from very humble beginnings. And the way I sort of explain it is boxing is like meditation for me. It probably may be similar for you. When I go and step inside that ring, I'm not thinking about a single thing. I'm not thinking about my problems. I'm not thinking about paying bills. I'm thinking about not getting punched in the head. I'm thinking about just what's happening in front of me. And I think it's like a great sort of 2 hours. I do it every night of my life, and it's a great 2 hours where I'm not thinking about a single thing. I'm just in the motion. I'm in fluent. I'm feeling good. And I go out there and I'm feeling so much better after it all the time. So it's I think once you get boxing in your veins, it's pretty hard to get it out.
Man, I would completely agree. And this is often the case that I argue to people who want to start boxing, or people who maybe argue against boxing. To me, I'll say, it is like a form of meditation, and it's like a way of channeling your anger and your frustration.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I used to be 110 kilos and a lot bigger until I started boxing and met my coach in London. So it's been good for me in that way, but also the meditation as well. It's not very often you get to practice something where you have a synergy between mind and body like you do with boxing.
100%. I think it's obviously as humans we've shied away from it heaps, but I think it's one of the most natural things we can do. Think about what we used to do when we were cavemen or hunters and gatherers. We fight with animals. So I think it's one of the most natural things, and I think honestly, it's besides sex, it's one of the most intimate things that you can experience. You're in a ring with one other person, and you're in there trying to hurt them, but there's no malice in what you're doing. There's no hatred or there's no anger. It's just like you're competitive, and there's this high level thinking. It's chess. It's everything is just extreme and intense.
That's a very interesting way to look at it. Some people might laugh at that, but I really get what you're 100%.
saying. I think until you're actually
the bond you share.
Of course.
Yeah, it's not sexual.
I hope not.
It's definitely not. But yeah, and also on that note as well, not that note, but the note before. A lot of the most revered people in history have been fighters as well. When you think about ultimate athletes, you think about gladiators, and Muhammad Ali was probably the most revered sports person of all time.
Years.
If you go to the remote outback of Rwanda, they're not going to know who LeBron James is, but they will probably know who Mike Tyson is.
Yeah, of course,
or Muhammad Ali.
Yeah,
because they're fighters, and there's something about that. I
think it's character building as well. I think I know so many athletes and so many boxers say this, or combat athletes say this. If I didn't find boxing at 9 years old, I would be completely different. I have people in my life who have very, very similar personalities to me. I've got an addictive personality. I obsess about things. I've got such a driven and hyper-focused personality, which is good if it's positive. If it's negative, it can go such a bad way. But I found boxing when I was 9 years old, and I found this way to channel my energy into something positive. And I obsess about boxing. It's all I think about. I think it's as I mentioned, character building. I think about all the characteristics I built: dedication, hard work. You have to. I'm not going to. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take. I lost out of my first 18 fights, lost 10. You know what I mean?
Oh, really?
Yeah, it took me a long time to get to where I am now, and I went to 4 national championships, losing my first fight of the championship. So, I persevered and I kept working hard, and the humility. There's so many things that boxing and combat athletes have that I don't think you get from every other sport. So
wow. So you lost 10 out of your first 18.
Yeah.
So is that on your amateur record now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So since then it's been
you've
really picked over the last few years.
My last loss in Australia was Liam Wilson back in 2013, but obviously
he's doing well now. He had a fucking great pro career.
He's exceptional. He's a great athlete, and he's a tough dude. Very,
what about
very
137 pro fights, 123 wins, I think?
Amateurs, yeah. And he's doing very, very well. I think in his second fight, won the Australian title and the professional. So he's doing extremely well.
Beat Brent Rice in Brisbane for that one.
Yeah. So he's boxing really well, and I've lost a couple internationally and stuff like that. But yeah, the last sort of 5 years is sort of where my growth in boxing has been.
Right. And who's been some of your toughest opponents?
Internationally, I was saying to someone the other day, probably this Japanese dude. I fought him just after the Commonwealth Games in the final of I was in Indonesia at the tournament. It was in I think August last year, and I boxed. I was lost in a split decision, but man, he was tough. Because my style was a bit more of a boxer, move around, play smart, but he just didn't allow me to do what I wanted to do. And it ended up just turning into a dog, we punched on for 3 rounds.
So he just walked you down.
He just walked me down. He's really, really good at closing the distance, and all Japanese blokes are pretty tough, mate. And yeah, we end up, after the first round, my coach said to me, if you keep going back, he's just going to run over you. He said to me, you're just going to stand there and trade with him. So it was a great opportunity to sort of get in there, and obviously something that I'm not usually used to do. So and I felt good in there, mate. I felt like it gave me a bit more confidence to back myself when I am in there and in the trenches, because I'm very rarely there. So going on to the pro ranks, it's going to be something that's going to happen. I'm going to have to slow my feet down and make a few adaptations to my style and stuff like that. So it took a lot of confidence out of it. Obviously lost, but he was one of the toughest for sure.
And when you do go to the pro ranks, are you thinking if you qualify for Tokyo 2020, then that will be the next step for you?
I think so, yeah. So obviously at the moment I have tunnel vision. I just think about what's in front of me, take it one task at a time, one mission at a time. But I plan on traveling. I haven't stopped boxing for 13 years, mate. So I think after the Olympics, going to have a month or two off to go Central or South America and just really relax.
Great idea, man.
And then when I come back, then sit down with my team. It's not just my decision. It's up to everyone else as well. So sit down with Brian, my coach, sit down with the national coach, my S&C coach, Amy Crook, and really make the decision and sit down with my family as well, because they're the ones who are at the forefront of everything. So, yeah, it'd be something that I ask myself after the Olympics, I think.
Well, that's a great idea. I mean, I'm going to South America in under 2 weeks. Yeah,
Damn,
so literally the night after I do the FightFit challenge,
Yeah.
I'm going to South America
Unreal.
the next day. So hopefully I don't get.
How long are you going for?
3 months.
Unreal.
Yeah, so it's just that I feel that because that's an urge that I need. Like it's like an itch that I need to scratch. You know, while I'm young, do a bit of traveling.
100%, mate.
Yeah, go see some new. I'm all about new countries and new cultures, and you're lucky that you get to do a bit of that with boxing.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have the same urge.
I think it's the best thing, the way I explain it. Obviously, I'm not doing things like, as I said, been to 15, 16 countries for boxing. And the way I sort of explain it is like, I'm not going over there doing what normal 22-year-olds are doing. I'm not going there drinking beers and spending all hours of the night.
Neither am
I. But the best thing is, like, I get to see the culture. I get to see how people live, and I get to see how beautiful Australia is. You know what I mean? Every time I come home, I feel grateful to be home. And like, we're so lucky to live here. Like, I love this country to bits. And every time I travel, obviously there's beauty in other countries, but there's nothing like Australia, mate.
Yeah, we are so lucky.
Yeah.
We are so lucky in the things that we take for granted. But obviously, when you go to other countries as well, I find that I'm always pretty mesmerized by like the depth of culture that other countries have. Like when you go to places like Italy
Of
or
course. So it's thousands of years, mate. That's the difference. Obviously, Australia, you think about how old are we? 200-300 years,
Yeah.
mate. It's very young, very, very
and
young.
there's certain sort of like there's certain sort of cultures that get cultivated over such long periods of time. Like when I go to South America, they've got all the ancient like Inca cultures and the Aztecs and all of that. And it's something that we kind of maybe lack a little bit
100%.
in Australia.
I think that, but it's also because of that. I think that's what makes Australia so great, is because we're so multicultural. You mean we don't have one specific, like identity. We don't have one specific you mean like history or anything like that. We're so young.
Yeah.
So I think multicultural. Obviously, look at Melbourne. It's one of the most multicultural cities in the world, and it's beautiful. I think it's one of the only places where like multicultural, it's worked. It's so is New Zealand. New Zealand's very multicultural, and it's good. It's good to see. Yeah.
Have you been over to New Zealand much?
I've been over there for a boxing tournament, but I
Right.
wouldn't say I saw Auckland, but it's a big city.
So do you get to go and, see much of the country, or are you pretty much on a rigorous schedule when you're traveling? Or do you have to go out and have dinners and walk around the city?
Yeah, it depends where we are. Say we're doing a training camp, there's a bit more flexibility. Obviously, if you're in a tournament, I'm very like militant with my approach, and it's like the Commonwealth Games. So my first event was on the first day, my first fight, and then my last event was on the second last day. So all that time, all the people on the team were going out and experiencing but I was there for one thing and one thing only, mate. So
does that get easier over time, saying no to that? And
yeah, it does, 100%. Yeah, obviously I'm still 22, mate. So it's still, there is the urge there to go and do what my mates are doing or stuff like that. But the vision is very, very clear to me. As you said, you see my room at home. It's pretty full on. And I wake up every morning and I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing it for. It's lonely, don't get me wrong. And I sacrifice a lot. Sacrifice is a big word. Made choices along the way.
I'd say you've sacrificed a fuckload.
Yeah. I had this debate with someone about sacrifices and choices. So he explained to me, it's like a sacrifice is like a negative thing. It's like you make the choice. But the way I sort of explained to him as well, it's like if I could do both and succeed, I would. So it is sort of a sacrifice. But yeah, it's just, I know what I want to do. I know what I want to achieve. And in order to do that, you need to make some choices.
But there is the obvious side, like the balance side of things as well. And I know our mate Jason Malia took about a year off at one stage, and he did all those things. He partied and had fun with his mates, and let off some steam. But then after that year, he came back, and I feel like that was a really, really good thing he did.
Yeah, and I think that's half the reason I want to travel Central or South America next year. So,
do you want to do that by yourself?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, obviously there might maybe friends and stuff like that I may know over there, but I'll probably travel by myself. And I think that's I'm a member of the Reach Foundation. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, Jimmy Steins' foundation. And a lot of the people there have traveled by themselves, and they say that's where you truly learn the most about yourself, is when you're traveling by yourself. So I'll do the majority of the trip by myself next year, I think. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a little bit of it by myself, but with mates as well. But I think South America is such a cool place, and I'll definitely give you some advice as well when I go over there. If you need any, I'll show you all the good places. I like to get off the beaten track a little bit. The Machu Picchu trail is like 5 days and 4 nights. Yeah,
and then you can go to the Amazon from
I
there?
I reckon
and
it's
stuff?
like obviously I'm an amateur athlete, so I haven't got much money in the world. But I think obviously it's a lot cheaper. But I think that it's one of the most naturally beautiful continents in the world. Obviously Europe's amazing because it's got the history and culture, but their lifestyle over there is just very like relaxed, and they dance, and I don't know, it's colourful.
The salsa and the
Yeah,
tango.
it's
and
beautiful.
then
I
you've
think it's
got
beautiful.
The Andes and the Amazon. It's just awesome, and
Yeah.
they have siesta as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that. Like
How cool is
I'm Italian, so I identify
Understand,
with that.
yeah.
I know what it's like to have a nap in the day and then have a late dinner. So I love that culture, man. But just back to your room for a second, because when you showed us around your room, you've got different little like poster notes saying, you know, what are they saying?
So I've got a few things in my room. So I've got a accountability mirror. If you haven't, David Goggins, most people know about him. If you don't, look him up.
I love my David Goggins. Stay
yeah,
hard.
stay hard. Exactly right. Callous the mind.
Yeah, exactly.
But I listened to his audiobook, and one of his tasks was the accountability mirror. So
I want to listen to his audiobook, but I'm actually scared of feeling like a massive pussy.
I think it makes you feel like a bit of a pussy. One of my biggest inspirations, so he's taking a bit off topic, but is Colin O'Brady.
Okay.
Think about David Goggins. He had some pretty hectic, like an upbringing that's made him so tough and so hard. Colin O'Brady, he walked across Antarctica by himself. He's rowing from South America to Antarctica. He's just a crazy man. But what I like about him, he doesn't have this crazy past where he's just an ordinary dude, and he's just like unlocks something in his mind, which is super powerful. And I think that's probably where I get the most inspiration from. But back on topic.
Yeah.
The accountability mirror, it's got things like my tournaments coming up, sacrifices, things people said to me and stuff like that, like doubt, people said to me growing up, the feelings I used to have of like say when I was younger. We're middle class, my family, and growing up I was probably lower middle class, and we hung around with a lot of middle to upper middle class, and I just felt there was a lot of judgment towards my family. My dad's a roof tiler, always wore tradie clothes, and I just felt that was everywhere we were growing up. Like everyone was just like, oh, look at these, the Garsides and stuff like that, and it sort of inspired me to work my ass off, and just make my family proud, and really make people turn their heads when they see the Garsides and stuff like that. And it sounds a bit, I don't know what the word is, but that's sort of where I seek my inspiration from. And as I said, I've sacrificed a lot of things on the way, like ex-girlfriends and stuff like that. Like in order for in order for a relationship to work, I need to sacrifice a bit of boxing. And at the time, I wasn't willing to do that. And she was one of the best chicks I've ever known. So I haven't thought about it in a while.
This is what the podcast is about, mate.
It's weird, mate. She's an unreal chick, and I think she's happy now, so that's all that matters. But I think
so. That's a real source of inspiration for you, is the things, and obviously the family as well, and the fact that you obviously love and get along with your family a lot. And you mentioned before that a lot of people have these really tumultuous upbringings, whereas you feel like you've had a really good upbringing and really supportive upbringing, but your motivation perhaps comes from elsewhere.
Of course, and I think that's like once I identified that there's people overseas who are fighting to live, there's people overseas who come from these pretty hectic upbringings, stuff like that, who have that inner fire. They don't have to create it. We have to, as Australian athletes or people who I haven't struggled, mate. I'm not gonna lie. I've come, as I said, two great parents, and lived in the best country in the world. Like there's not many serious problems that I've experienced growing up. So I think I need to seek motivation from other places. And as I mentioned, there's things like what else is on the list? Some people have said to me, the teachers used to say to me that I'd be nothing but a high school dropout. And what did I do? I finished high school. They said that I finished high school, and then now it's good to go back to the school and have teachers who used to say stuff to me when I was younger, like I wasn't going to be much, and they're shaking my hand now. And it's, I don't know, it sounds a little bit in the head, but it's just a good feeling, mate. I think I've I don't know how to say that. Inspiration from and motivation from many places, and I think that's what you have to do.
I think that one of the most powerful things in the world is proving doubters wrong. I mean, when you have people, it can be very damaging to someone when you have people who you perhaps look up to or who you trust or whatever, who say, oh, maybe you won't be anything, or people in a position of power or perceived power saying that you're not going to be anything, or doubting aspects of your personality, to then turn around and look back a year or a few years later and say, well,
Here we
look
are
who's
now.
laughing now.
Yeah.
It's a really powerful thing, man.
100%. And as I mentioned, there was primary school teachers, high school teachers, even some close family members said that I wouldn't be much. And I hear things about me turning pro. People are sort of doubting that I would have the style or something like that. And you know what that does? It just inspires me to prove all them wrong. And as I mentioned, I like to work behind the curtains and make sure I'm getting my stuff ready and stuff like that, and just trying to prove those people wrong. And I'm doing it for myself, but stuff like that, comments like that, definitely help you train hard and the reason why you wake up in the morning and and are working.
And on the other side of the spectrum, in regards to that, what about the people who told you that you're going to be great all along, or told you that you've got what it takes?
Yeah, so my coach and even my parents are two great people. And my coach, he's like Gus D'Amato, Mike Tyson's coach. Early on, he babied me and cradled me, and he would say stuff like, "You're going to be champion one day." And me I started when I was 9. Me as a 10-year-old kid hearing stuff like that from someone who I idolized was massive, and it just made me believe it almost. I don't know if I believed it early on, but it made me sort of have those voices in my head like, maybe I can be champion if he keeps saying it. Maybe I can. He used to say stuff like, he would say it taking the piss. He would say stuff like, make sure you go home and sleep with your boxing gloves on. He would say that just taking the piss. And I would actually go home and sleep with my boxing gloves on. Because if he said jump, I said how high, you know what I mean? So he says it to kids now. I'm thinking, he was just taking the piss when I was younger, but I have a very, very good relationship with my coach, Brian, and he's half the reason I am where I am now.
And is that how you mentioned your parents as well? Tell about your relationship with them and how they've inspired you.
Yeah, so my two parents are two of the hardest working people. As I mentioned, we were probably lower middle class growing up, and now we're probably middle to upper. They've worked their ass off. Mum and Dad used to work both 2 jobs. Just seeing that, I would wake up every morning. My dad wouldn't be there because he would be up at work. He'd be up at 5 a.m. going. He's a roof tiler, a very, very physical job. And then coming home and he'd be exhausted. But just seeing that every day, it's instilled in me. What it takes to be successful.
Right.
And as I mentioned, my mum is, she would be, as any normal mum does, is she'll be up, has to work. She's getting ready for work. Then she's getting our stuff ready for school growing up. And then she's picking us up from school, taking us to sport while she's also trying to prepare dinner. Like there's so many things that I saw growing up that my parents inspired me and made sure that they instilled in me what it takes to be where I am.
And
now.
also just, it's so amazing to see dedication from the parents, and that helps, I guess, to show that they did that so that you could have the chance to,
of course,
to
and
pursue your dreams.
Yeah, so I got 2 older brothers, and all 3 of us have had all opportunities in the world to make something of ourselves, and that's credit to our parents. I remember as I mentioned, my parents worked 2 jobs, both growing up and stuff like that. And I remember, so I'm the youngest of 3 boys. My oldest brother, this is a story, I don't really remember it, but this is a story I heard. My brother said to my dad once when he was about 6, he said to him, it's like, Dad, why is all the other dads at the basketball days and not you? And ever since that day, my dad has showed up to every single sporting event. He hasn't missed one, whether that's not just me, out of my 2 brothers as well. They play football and squash and stuff like that. My dad has not missed one day, and so has my mum. So
comes to all your boxing stuff as well?
Not so much international.
Yeah,
obviously, I wouldn't expect that. But yeah, if it's in Australia, 99% of the time they're there. So I'm super grateful to be able to share that experience with my parents as well.
That's beautiful, man. That's awesome. And just back to the accountability mirror for a second. Do you ever have those one-on-one conversations with yourself where you feel like you haven't been
accountable?
Yeah,
of course. And I'm a massive one on setting goals. So I set goals weekly, even just little daily goals. I don't write them down as much as the daily ones, weekly, monthly, and yearly. And to say at the moment, my monthly goal is to drink minimum 4.5 liters a day. I've slipped up once this month, and I was so dirty in myself. I'm going to look at myself at the end of the day, and I was at like 4 liters, and I couldn't stomach anymore because it was very close to bed. I'm thinking, I failed, and I was so dirty in myself. But just looking in my mirror, and I made sure that happened on I think it was the 11th. Hasn't happened since. So what were we, 25th or something right now? So, I was very dirty on myself that I slipped up that one day. But that mirror is super powerful. You're looking at yourself. There's something, I don't know, something special about looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing all these stuff written up. And then if you fail, you're the one who's accountable for it. You're the one who's stuffed up. So I made sure that I wouldn't stuff up again.
And is that a part of a nutrition plan? Are you working with a nutritionist?
I work with my S&C coach, Amy Crook. She does a lot of my nutrition, and we keep it very basic. Obviously, when we travel, sometimes you can't get the best food, so I like to just keep it basic, mate. Veggies, you get that mostly everywhere. A protein of some sort, mostly tuna. A lot of boxers eat tuna. It's very lean as well. And then a carb, either depending on how close I am to comp, either before or after training, depending what time of day it is. So we keep it very basic, but yeah, she looks after my diet.
And do you find it very hard to stay as slim and as lean as you are?
I think training 3 times a day, so I do 3 sessions a day. It definitely keeps the weight off, and I'm very lucky. This prep, my coach, S&C coach Amy, is upped the food heaps, which has been great. And there was at the start when she upped it, there was like a period where I was like, I'm eating way too much food. Like I felt like I was forcing it down, but I've got a bit used to it now, which is good.
That's good. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah,
that's the thing, because I always had a really bad relationship with food, hence why I was such a fat pig. And then like when I got on the nutritionist recently, because I really wanted to lose that extra bit and then, get into really good shape, look like the other boxers around the gym. That really sort of changed my perception of food and how to have a good relationship with food. And it's not about eating nothing; it's just about eating the right sort of stuff.
Things. Yeah, and that's I think. Growing up, I had no idea what to eat and stuff like that. I'd eat those light and easy meals, frozen meals, stuff like that. I'd have no idea. So, and I'd always just cut out water. That was because obviously water makes the biggest difference to the scales.
Yeah.
But the focus this year has been more so upping the water, because you don't actually, if you up the water, a lot of boxers don't realize that if you up the water and you maintain it, your body doesn't do too much. It gets to a point where it's full and it's just topping it. It's just topping it up. That's all it's doing.
Yeah.
When you deplete yourself for too long, your brain is the slowest thing to get hydrated again. So I think you're doing damage to yourself if you're constantly dehydrated. And I was when I was making 60. But I'm feeling so much better now, a lot clearer. I sleep a lot better. I'm training a lot better. Like my 100% level is much surpassed my 2018 days when I was making 60. So eating the right foods and staying hydrated is 2 of the main focuses for me, and my weight still stays low.
Mate, I could not agree more with a few aspects of that. Since I've been working with Michelle Reeves, the hydration, because you're meant to drink a litre for every 20 kilos of your body. So I'm meant to be drinking at least 4 litres a day, which is difficult. But once you get up there and you can actually, maintain that, it really makes a difference. And the brain as well. The brain,
100%.
My brain feels dry if I don't drink a lot of water.
Yeah, I was, as I mentioned, making 60 kilos was tough, and I was honestly selling a bit of my soul to make it. But since those days, and I've moved up to 63 now, and I'm able to drink a lot more water. And as I mentioned, 4.5 liters a day, and I'm training 3 times a day, so I probably should up it a little bit more, but minimum 4.5 liters a day. Right. So, and as I mentioned, the sleep, everything's just performing better.
And how old are you now?
22.
22. So next year you'll be 23, and hopefully make the Tokyo Olympics, do some damage over there. Would your plan to then be fight in that 60 when you do? I'm not saying that you're going to, because you're obviously focusing on the Olympics for now. But would the plan be to fight at 63?
I think in the pros, 63 and a half. I think by the time I turn pro, if it's next year or if it's not, I think 63 and a half will be perfect. I'll probably walk around close to 70, maybe just under that. I'm about 67. I walk around about 67, 68 at the moment.
Okay.
But yeah, I think by the time I turn pro, it'd be a good cut. I think 63 and a half would be perfect. Any lower almost takes the fun away from the sport.
And also, as you get older as well, you're starting to develop your physical peak and physical maturity and your man strength, and it'll be much more difficult to get to that weight.
Of course.
Yeah. So what's the plan when you think about going pros? You've obviously mapped this out. How does it work for you? Do you have a few fights in Melbourne and go world title in?
Yeah, so my plan is to next year win gold at the Olympic Games. Obviously, I want nothing but the best, nothing but number 1 spot. And then after that, you should hopefully get offers from big time dealers over in America and stuff like that. So that's the plan. If it doesn't, obviously you got to have contingency plans and stuff like that. If that doesn't work, then I'll just work my way up, mate. And start in Australia, and I want to fight the best. I don't want to. You see a lot of. I'm not disrespecting any fighters, but I think Floyd Mayweather's created this, and I love him to bits. But I think he's created this. No one wants 0 on their 1 on their record. Sorry, no one wants that loss on their record. You mean, but I truly, if I'm going to turn pro, you mean I want to be the best. I want to fight the best. I don't want to have these like fighting these vacant titles, and you mean I want to be trying to fight the best. And obviously, sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes you can't help that there's no one there to fight, so you got to take what you can get. You mean, but I don't want to have 10, 15, 16 fights, and I've stopped everyone in the first 4 rounds, and they're realistically not the best boxers. You know, I want to make sure that I'm really testing myself, and if I lose, you mean then I'll train harder. You think back in the old days, people like Roberto Duran, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray, they all had losses on their record. You mean none of them had zeros, you mean undefeated. None of them were undefeated.
Yep.
You mean, but what do? They come back and won after they lost. So I think that's what marks a great champion. It's just challenging yourself, fighting the best, and then if things don't go to plan, train harder, be better, and get him next time. I think that's the mindset I've got.
And you mentioned a few of those guys. Are any of them particularly influential in the way that you box?
I think Sugar Ray Leonard's a massive one. Obviously, Lomachenko as well, being a southpaw. Even like the bloke who Lomachenko fought, Luke Campbell. Yep. He's exceptional, good southpaw. And I think that's sort of the style that I would probably try and emulate going to the pros. He sticks. He's very neat. Sticks to his stuff. He's not a massive puncher, but he sticks to his game plan. I really like that and respect that. Obviously, there's some people who have Mike Tyson. I mean, he was an exceptional athlete, but was gifted with hands of stone. So that's something that I haven't really been gifted with. You've got speed. My technical skills is pretty good. So I just got to work out my positives and work out my weaknesses and sort of just work on that.
And how do you then adjust your style to professional?
I think I'll probably just slow down my feet. Obviously, amateur boxing is a bit like jousting. It's a bit like fencing. But don't get me wrong. I come from a professional coach, Brian Levier. He's 76. He's trained many pros in his time. Fought Johnny Famishon, Lionel Rose back in his day. So he has instilled in me what a professional does. And obviously, I mentioned I'm not a massive puncher, so I'd have to work on my assets and sort of just work on that. And as I mentioned, Luke Campbell, he sticks to his game plan, nice, neat, long, drops bombs when he has to, but still nice, neat, compact. And that's sort of someone that I reckon I'd emulate.
So you think that perhaps you'd have to maybe work on your strength a little bit, having to stand in there and trade and sit on your punches a little bit more? Perhaps,
of course, still maintaining technical skills, not dropping your hands and being silly. But yeah, definitely try and, I think, back yourself. I think amateur boxing is so fast past. So there's no time. You're not going to go in there and try and knock someone out unless you're a big super heavyweight. You're not going to go in there and try and knock someone out when it's all about sort of skills. It's fast paced chess amateurs. It's very, very quick, and it's compared to professional ranks, it's a lot quicker. So I just have to slow down my feet. Close the distance a little bit maybe, and just back myself a little bit more, I think.
Right. And the Olympics is such an awesome opportunity for any young boxer to then propel their career, and it's a real platform to show everybody what you're made of. We've seen. I mentioned to you that I trained in the same gym as Lawrence Okoli in London. Spoke to him in the change room once, and now he won. Oh, I think he won his first 1 or 2 fights or something at the Olympics, and now he's doing really well for himself. Do you anticipate that if you can do well at the Olympics, then that'll get you on the radar of some bigger sort of promotions?
That's definitely the plan. I think that's most amateurs' plans if they ever want to turn pro, is to perform really, really well at the Olympics and sell themselves. And then it sort of makes it a little bit easier in the pros to sort of try and find management or find fights or something like that. So that is the plan. Definitely try and really perform at the Olympics. And then, as I mentioned, who knows if I'll turn pro? But if I do, then fingers crossed I've paved the way.
Right. And then we've got guys like Belal Akawai, who's currently he was training with Canelo's team. Yeah.
You see today that Daniel Lewis is going over to train with Crawford. Yeah, it's unreal.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Early on in my amateur career, my international career, Daniel Lewis and Jason Waitley were two of the big guys in the team, and the two guys in the team that I really, really try and aspire to be like. They handle themselves extremely well outside of the ring. They train hard, just Aussie battlers, the definition of Aussie battlers. But yeah, it was sort of great sort of experience those blokes growing up, and that was the end of their amateur career. But sort of experiencing that at the start of my international career was sort of great to have people like that on the team.
And Daniel Lewis went away for a little while, and he kind of lost his love for the sport, and then he's come back and just making waves now.
Yeah.
And he's seriously a talented guy. He's just won a fight in the US, and now he's going over to spar Terence Crawford.
Pound for pound, the best in the world, isn't he? It's crazy. It's crazy. But I think He started boxing similar age as me. He started very, very young, and I don't think he had a break. He was, and after the Olympics, obviously you go from such a high, and then you hear a lot of athletes say they slump straight after that. So
it's going from the pinnacle of being an amateur to then you're pretty much starting to sort of get your record as a pro now.
Of course, and obviously the time and effort that gets put into the stuff, saying no to going out with your mates, and all those things accumulate, and then when you're hitting that low, I think it all just sort of creeps back in, and it's great to see where he is now, because as I mentioned, he's a great influence of mine, and he's a great inspiration of mine to sort of see where he was at the lowest of low, and to see where he is now, it's a massive inspiration.
Good for him, man. I'm really, really proud as an Aussie boxing fan to see that. Tell us a little bit about his character and his boxing style and what you expect to see from him in the future.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. So, as I mentioned, him and Jace Waitley, they were the larrikins of the team. They were absolute pisses to be around. And he's hard, as I mentioned, a hard worker, and he's fundamentally he's a very enclose fighter and very neat and compact, and he drops big bombs, and his hands are up, and he's nice at mid to short range distance. But he also can box as well when he needs to. And say the bloke's superior on the inside, he can move around and box. And I think he's definitely a force to be reckoned with. And I think if he gets put in good management and he gets looked after, I think he'll be world champion.
I mean, he doesn't want to get much better experience than going over and sparring with these guys. And he's at a high level now, but you can just guarantee that he's going to come home with a new
new
weapon in his arsenal.
New lease on boxing.
Yeah.
I think it's going to really opportunities like that just take you from this level, just up it. Sometimes you can hit a level and you're sort of treading. You need something like that. It's just going to bring you up to that next level. So I think it's all positive for him.
And Jason Waitley as well. He's been doing really, really well. After I watched him fight the Argentinian guy on the last Wild Fighter card, and he's fighting again in
December.
December 14th.
Yeah, so it's Aussie title. Jace actually he trains at my gym, so he runs.
I know
the gym.
you guys are very good mates.
He's like my big brother, so I'm very grateful to have something like that in my life. And he's fighting for the Aussie title, cruiserweight title in December, and it's in a Commonwealth title eliminator. So he's looking really good at the moment. We spent the last 3 days boxing together. Some boys from WA come over, and he's boxing awesome. I think December will be very,
Commonwealth
very good.
title eliminator. It's cool.
It's massive,
that'd be great to see him go on and challenge for that title.
Of course. And as I mentioned, he's doing very, very well, and he's training very hard. And he's 20? He just turned 28, so he's making the move now. I think to get that international record.
Awesome. And Troy Bullock, who trains at FightFit here, who's also another cruiserweight who's 3-0 now, has been going over and training with Jason. He's been saying that they've been getting some awesome sparring in. Yeah,
he's been getting heaps of rounds in. I travel a lot for boxing, but I've been seeing on social media that he gets Jason's been getting a lot of rounds in, which has been good. So, the more people you can sort of spar and move around with, the better you are, because you're sort of getting more tools in your shed to perform on fight day.
Awesome, mate. Well, I've had an absolute blast. I'm so glad I got to chat to you today, man. I'd love to chat to your teammates as well.
Absolutely.
Jason, and if I get Daniel Lewis on next year, that'd be amazing as well. Yeah. I've had such a good time, man, and you're just such an interesting character. I can't wait to watch you qualify for the Olympics and go fucking get gold.
Gold, brother. Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Do you want to just tell everybody where they can find you on socials?
Yeah, cool. So Harry_Garside is my Instagram, and then Facebook, just Harry Garside. I post. I love to sort of keep active and show everyone what a day-to-day life is for me, and sort of just showing how many sessions I do and stuff like that. And give us a follow.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would really recommend it because it's very interesting to see everything you're doing, mate. Thank you very much.
Good man. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Cheers.